It's that shit go, no, she on the flow. Yeah, it's that.
We have discussed how to create and how to initialize the values in a single dimension array, right? So multi-dimensional array. In Java, multi-dimensional arrays are actually arrays of arrays, right? The diagram only will give you answer for that particular statement. To declare a multi-dimensional array variable, specify each additional index using another set of square brackets, right? So according to this particular declaration, int 2 d of right, so 2 dimension I am saying is equal to new int of 4 rows 5 columns, right? 4 rows and 5 columns. Clear with the declaration and a representation of the same declaration. That means if you are declaring an array, two-dimensional array using this particular statement, so internally this is how it will be saved, right? So this particular element you can identify by a index 0 0, this element with a 0 1, this element with a 0 2, 0 3, 0 4, so on and so forth. Because you already know what is a index of a particular element, so I'm directly telling you this will be a description. Clear with the diagram, clear with the declaration, clear with the point specified in the PPT. It is saying actually arrays of arrays. Yes, arrays 0 1 2 3 means even this can be considered as a one array. So with respect to 0th index, these are the elements. With respect to 1 index, these are the elements. With respect to 2nd index, these are the elements. With respect to 3rd index, these are the elements which you have. Clear? Can I ask a few question? I got some doubt. After seeing this picture, I got some doubt. My question is something like this. This 4 represents a number of rows, right? 5 represents a number of columns, right? Which of these two values is optional? Or it doesn't need to give both the values? Let me show you, share a small program that I wrote. Right. So this is a small declaration that I have given. I have specified a number of rows, but not specified anything with respect to column. Let me just check whether this will work or not. This is my file name. Compiled fine. Run also fine. Let me remove both the things and check. It will give a proper conclusion, which is optional and which is mandatory. Array dimension missing, right? Then which values we are giving now? Previously I gave a row. See, this was your declaration. This was your declaration. This was your declaration. This was your declaration, right? What I have did previously is I have removed a column and I have run the program, right? So in this case, it was not showing any error, right? Now let us remove this particular part and put value 5 into this one. I have not specified a rows, but I am specifying a columns now. Let us check, will it show any error? Error, expected, this bracket, expected semicolon, right? So what is the conclusion now? Which one is mandatory, which one is optional? Does not giving any value is valid? No, it's not a valid. Correct? So which value need to be specified at least? Number of rows.
Row is specified.
Yes, number of rows has to be specified and columns value is optional, right? So why it is optional, I'll tell you. Say for example, if you see the diagram, you have a these many number of rows. So means this declaration is saying a 4 rows, right? So when it is saying a 4 rows, it is up to me in these particular 4 rows. Do you want to put a same set of elements or a different set of elements? What I mean to say, in a first row, I may not be interested in putting all the 5 values, right? So my intention is something like this. 0th row, I want only 2 elements. First row, I want only 3 elements. Second row, I want only 1 element. Third row, I want actually 5 elements. Are you able to imagine whatever I'm saying? So the intention is, first you need to specify number of rows. What it is telling is, you specify number of rows. Upon those rows, on those particular rows, how many number of elements you want to put, it is up to you. You can decide later. Right? So this is what the conclusion is. If you are declaring a 2-dimensional array, so then make sure that you are specifying the number of rows. Afterwards, in the program, you can specify how many number of elements you want to put with respect to each row. Shall we proceed further? Clear with the conclusion? So the different variations also, right? What will be it? What it is going to show if you are not specifying row values, right? Right. So here is example. Can you just justify? Can you just guess the output of this one? Number of rows is 4. Number of columns is 5. You will be having a one 2-dimensional array which 4 rows and 5 columns, right? So this I value is pointing to a number of rows and the j value is pointing to a number of columns, right? So what you are doing is, in a 2-dimensional array, that is a 4 cross 5, you are just putting some value of k. What is the value of k initially? 0, right? You are putting a value of a 0 at a location of a 0 0, because initially value of I is equal to 0 and j is also 0. At a location of a 0 0, you are putting a value of a k which is a 0. Am I making a sense? Right. So you are just incrementing every time. K value will be incremented every time and it will be placed at that particular location, right? So what I mean to say is, this is your 4 cross 5 matrix. Initially 0 will be put here, 1 here, 2 here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So these will be the values in that particular 2D, right? So in this particular loop, you are putting a values into array, and by writing this particular another loop, you are printing a content of your array. So this particular loop can be replaced by using a for each also, right? So output will look something like this. All the values of a k has been printed from a 0 to 19. Right? So 4 cross 5 in the sense, you will be having a 4 rows, 5 columns, in the sense 20 elements you will be having. So it is taking a values from a 0 to 19. So 20 elements have been. Clear with the example? Can we proceed? Expecting acknowledgement in the chat box. Yes, yes, yes. Right. So until means till this particular part, everything is clear. Let us see one more example. What might be the output of this particular program? Is there any difference between a previous one and this one? There is a difference. What you have to observe is, in a declaration section, I have just given a number of rows. I have not specified how many number of columns I require. Okay. So later what we are doing is, with respect to 0th row, you wanted a size as a 1. With respect to first row, I wanted size as a 2. With respect to a second row, I wanted size as a 3. With respect to the third row, I wanted size as a 4. Can you imagine a structure now? Right? So now how many number of elements you will be having in array? So first row 1 element, second row 2 elements, third row 3 elements, fourth row 4 elements. You just add all these things. 1 plus 3 plus 3, 6 plus 4, 10. You will be having a 10 elements in array. Right? So how are those elements have been saved? So again, in a similar fashion, same loop has been written, but a declaration is in a different fashion. In a first row, 0 will be there. In the second row, 1 and a 2 will be there. In the third row, you will be having a 3, 4, 5. In the fourth row, you will be having 6, 7, 8 from starting. Okay. So initially, I have taken a one two-dimensional array and I have specified a number of rows in it. Okay. So this will create me an array with a number of rows as a 4. And we have concluded that if you are just specifying number of rows also no problem, it will work fine. Right. So declaration is done with respect to a overall array. Now what I'm saying is with respect to index 0, I wanted a size of array as a 1. I'm saying with respect to index 0 of a two-dimensional array, first size, so means index 0's size is a 1, right? If you refer to this particular diagram. If you are saying a 4 rows means you will be having a 4 rows, something like this. Now what I'm saying is 0th index array, whatever you have, I want its size as a only 1. That means there should be only one element in this particular 0 index array. Right? So later what I'm saying is at the index 1, right? So with the index 1 of a two-dimensional array, with respect to index 1, I want only 2 elements. Right? So with respect to index 2, I want a 3 elements. With respect to index 4, I want a 4 elements. This is what we have written here. 0th index 1 element, first index 2 elements, second index 3 elements, and the third index 4 elements. Right? So initialize, so means declaring I and j and initializing k is equal to 0 initially. I is equal to 0, I less than 4, I plus plus, because you have a 4 rows. J, previously you wrote a something like this, j is equal to 0, j is less than 5, j plus plus, because you were knowing that you had a 5 columns, right? So now this is not the case. How many number of columns you have? If it is a 0th index, you have a 1 column. If it is a first index, you have a 2 columns. If it is a second index, you have a 3 columns. And if it is a third index, you have a 4th column. So can I say that if I value is equal to some 0, can I say its maximum number of elements is I plus 1? Yes. If I value is a 1, its maximum elements is I plus 1 again. If I value is a some 2, its maximum elements is a some I plus 1 again. So you are putting a counter something, you are checking a condition something like this, j is less than I plus 1, right? J plus plus. The same instructions have been written, just putting a value of a k into that particular place, incrementing a k plus plus. Is this clear? In the further loop, you are repeating the same for loops again and printing a content. What will be output of this one? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Clear with the example? You can also initialize your two-dimensional array by directly giving a values also. Yes. So this is my 2 cross 2 array, which is with respect to 4 number of rows, right? So now what are the things we have declared is with respect to a first row, I don't want to have these many things. I wanted to have only one value. Okay. So with respect to a second row, what I'm saying is I wanted to have a 2 values. This is what with respect to a second row, right? Uh, this is giving me a 3 values. Let me merge this part also, right? Okay, so with respect to a 0, 1, 2, 2's index, I need to put 3 values, right? And with respect to last index, I have to put a 4 values, right? Here I can put only one value because I have only one element, space for only one element, right? Here I can put a 2 values, 1, 2. Here I can put a 3 values. Here I can put, this is the size of array that I have declared now, right? How am I putting a values into this one? Is, see, at the index 0, how many number of elements I need to put? Only one element, right? So first let me write outer for loop. What is the outer for loop says? Your outer for loop says how many number of rows you have, right? How many number of rows you have? Int, if you have declared I already, so I is equal to 0, I is less than 4. This is a number of rows, I plus plus. Font is very less. Right? So this is with respect to number of rows, right? When I value is equal to 0, so how many number of elements I want to put in that particular row? Only one element I have to put. That means, am I dependent on a value of I now? That means if a value of I is equal to 0, then number of elements that I need to put is a 1, right? If a value of I becomes a 1, the number of elements that I need to put is 2. I am referring to this particular table, right? When a value of I is equal to 0, I have to put a 1 element. When a value of I is equal to 1, I have to put a 2 elements. When a value of I is equal to 2, I have to put a 3 elements, right? So according to that, I have to put one value more than the value of I. J is less than I plus 1, J plus plus, right? What has to be done within this particular loop? Whatever a two-dimensional array you have, in that particular two-dimensional array, put a value of a k, right? Upon putting a value of a k, you just increment its value. Is this what we have written here? Opening brace of this, closing brace of this. I forgot this brace. Right? Initially I will be a 0, j will be a 0. I will be a 0, j will be a 0. At a location of a 0, 0, here I need to specify I and a j. At a location of a 0 and a 0, you are putting a value of k, right? K incremented, k became a k plus plus. You are still in a loop, this loop itself, you are going to increment the value of j now. So when a value of a j becomes a 1, you are checking whether 1 is less than, what is the value of I? 0 plus 1. Does the condition satisfies? Does the 1 is less than 0 plus 1? Condition fails, right? Yes. When a condition fails, it will come out of a loop. I value will be incremented, right? So what we have observed now, so you were able to put only one value here. One has been inserted into that, right? So this loop will be reinitialized. So j is equal to 0 now. So means j I is equal to 1 now. At a location of a 1 and a 0, you will be putting a value of a k, that is a 1 now. Is it clear, or do I need to perform for all the possible values?
So confused, sir.
Yes,
Con-
they're confused.
confused. Hmm, hmm, hmm. One second. Is this my two-dimensional array? Two-dimensional array declaration, right? Int I comma j comma k is equal to 0. These are the values initially. For I is equal to 0, I less than 4, that is a number of rows. I plus plus, this is this loop I am writing for a handling number of rows, right? Now for handling a number of columns, right, I am writing one more loop. J is equal to 0, j is less than 5, j plus plus. If this comment is a confusing here, columns, right? After this particular loop,
So after zero, there will be semicolon.
Semicolon is
ah,
good.
right, I need to have a means a two-dimensional array name is a now. So what I have to do is, in a way, array A, that means at a location of a I and a location of a j, I have to put whatever is the value of a k, right? Once I have put a value of a k, I'm just incrementing that one. Clear? Let me just print whatever is the content of this particular array now. Let me copy these two for loops, paste it here. Let me just write system dot out dot println of a of I and j. First let us see what values it will print, then we'll adjust that particular output in a meaningful fashion. Compiled well. Is it printing the values from 0 to 19? At least are you clear with this particular example?
Yes, sir.
This one is a clear now, right? Now, now what we are doing is, according to this particular example, one second, instead of taking a print ln, let me take a print. If I am taking a print, everything will be displayed in a single line itself, right? So what I will do, after one second, here also if I want some space, I can include some space, then I can attach. Now this is my two-dimensional array where it is printing 5 elements in each row. Now what is my requirement is I don't want all these rows having a same element. I want a different elements with respect to each row. Okay, so what the declarations we have done here after this particular two-dimensional array declaration is int a of a 0. That means now a 0th index should have only one value. Can you at least relate the things? 0th index, only one value. If I consider this 0 as the value of I, can I say that it should have a I plus 1 element? Right? So similarly, at the index 1, what I'm saying is at the index 1, I wanted 2 elements. Right? So at the index 3, index 2, I wanted to have 3 elements. At the index 3, I wanted to have 4 elements. So this is my declaration. Now what I'm saying is I don't want 5 elements in each row, right? I wanted 4 rows. I don't want to specify this number of columns because I wanted to create the things dynamically. So at each row, I wanted only for the 0th row 1 element, first row 2 elements, for a second row 3 elements, for the third row 4 elements. This is my requirement now. Now if I consider number of rows, do I have 4 rows? Yes, you have 4 rows, but with respect to each column, you don't have 5 elements now, right? How many elements you have now? It depends on the value of I. That means if I am processing a 0th row, then I have only one element, right? That means if a value of I is equal to 0, at that time my jth loop should go only till I plus 1. It should not go more than that, right? If a value of I is equal to 1, it has to go only till I plus 1. If a value of I is equal to 2, it has to go only till I plus 1. If a value of I is equal to 3, it has to go only till I plus 1. Did it made some sense now? Shall I execute and check once? The same loop has been repeated for a printing also, because you will be having those many elements in your array. What is the error? Oh, I have to specify two-dimensional array, rather I have specified a single dimensional. How we have declared. What is the error? Oh, why I wrote int? When array has been declared already, no need to specify it as an int again, because we have already specified it as an int. Declaration syntax mistake. Still confusing? Expecting answer. Is it still confusing? Done.
Yes, sir.
Still confusing?
No, sir. Clear. Thank you, sir.
Understood, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Don't accept forcefully. If I if I have confused, it means you tell me, no problem.
You should- No, sir, it's clear, sir.
Okay. So here is one more example, which is showing just initialization can be done directly also. No need to go with writing a for loop and all. If you have a values directly, you can initialize those things in this particular fashion, right? So in this example, they have used some double data type and performed a multiplication part. Okay. You have a one more concept. So means generally these kind of a programs you will not be writing, but it is just showing like these kind of a things are also possible with a Java arrays. You have a something called as a three-dimensional array. First of all, two-dimensional array itself is a confusing. Why you are talking about a three-dimensional might be the answer, but this is a concept which is available. If you want to explore, you can just look into this particular program. You will be having a three for loops instead of two. So now you will be having a three for loops. Okay. So within a inside of this third for loop, you will be putting a element, right? If you want to get a visual picture of this particular aspect, so it will be a something like this. One second, I'll just show you that particular part. It will be something like this. For a zeroth index, you will be having a 1 2 cross 2 matrix. For a first index, again you will be having a one more 2 cross 2 matrix. For the second index, you will be having a one more 2 cross 2 matrix. This is how the three-dimensional array will be there. But most of the times you will not be using any programs which uses a three-dimensional array concepts. But we are saying that those kind of things are applicable and can be used. So means flexibility is given, but it is up to us. Right? This is output if you are executing this particular program of a three-dimensional arrays. So this will be the output. Right. And there are a few conclusions which we need to keep in mind with respect to a declaration of arrays. So till now we have seen multi-dimensional array declaration. We have seen how to work, how to, one second. Okay, I have muted them. Okay, so we have discussed like how to declare a multi-dimensional array, and we have seen how to put a values into a multi-dimensional array and print the same thing. In the morning session, we have discussed one dimension. Now we have discussed two dimension. With respect to a syntax of a declaration, we have some what I can say flexibilities are there. So you can use those flexibilities while declaring array. What are those flexibilities? The first flexibility. This is how the syntax of a declaration. So generally you will be putting this particular square bracket after the variable name, right? So it is not mandatory to put after the square bracket. So after specifying a type also, you can specify this square bracket. Even that is feasible. You can perform a declaration in that particular fashion. No problem. This is an example for that. Int array a of this one, new int of 3. This is a normal declaration itself. This square bracket can be just after a data type name also. So means the type of a data you have specified after a data type also, you can have this particular square bracket. Even these are also equivalent with respect to two dimension. This is a general way of declaring a two dimension. You can put a curly braces before this particular data type. So means after this particular data type, no problem. If you are writing int followed by square bracket, specify your names. It will create a three arrays for you. No need to specify explicitly square brackets for each and every variable. Right? So you have few more variations. So means one more variation. So means even this way of declaring is feasible, or you can just specify one curly brace for after a data type. This will also create a three arrays for you. Okay, so these are the things with respect to one dimension and a two dimension arrays. See, whatever the things I have displayed on the screen, all are valid declarations. You can declare array in these fashions. I have one document over here. Just have a look into this particular set of programs. Just so means I'll be sharing this particular document. go through each and every program. I have a listed, actually these are a small programs itself, and these are the programs which you have already solved using your C language. I just wanted to check those things with respect to Java. I'll be sharing this particular document. Go through whether you are able to solve these particular questions or not.